Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Regular User Podcast, the college football show. Each and every week, we break down the latest college football matches, from the biggest games of the week to ones that have kind of the most juice and the best bets we've seen to make a little bit extra money. I'm your host, Jordan Nash, and I'm going to be finished this Uncrustable while I record this episode. All right. First off, if you're a first-time listener, please head over to iTunes, give me a 5-star rating, or, if it's not a 5-star, don't leave it to me. I don't deserve that. I don't need that fake gas up. But, anyways, head over there. All my social media and everything you can find in the notes in the podcast page, or when you head over to the show's blog page. You can hit me up on Twitter, at jdash325, on Instagram, at jord.ash325. You can email the show, the regular usual, at gmail.com, or of course, and more preferred to be honest, call or text the hotline at 813-856-9093. Okay, I think it's going to be better if I just finish this sandwich than continue trying to take a bite, eat, back and forth, you know? Alright. I'm about to choke on this show. Okay. Picking up after last week, as we broke down 13 games starting all on Thursday night. Starting on Thursday night with number 21 UCF on the road at UConn. We picked UCF minus 24 points. They ended up winning that game handedly, winning 56-17. I guess I should also mention that I went 6-7 last week, keeping the record there. But even though I went sub 500, still ended up adding a little bit of change to the bankroll, $1.48 to be exact. So heading into week 2, we're going to start with 102.58. Yes, if you're a first-time listener, you're probably thinking, whoa, that's like chump change. I can probably find that on my couch right now. First of all, if you have that type of change in your couch, why are you carrying that much change in your pockets? It's 2018. Does everyone use plastic? You have to go to the grocery store, to the bank to actually get any cash back. Who the fuck carries change around like that? It's not your grandpa. Come on, fuck out of here. Anyways, we bet everything really cheap. Dollar bets only until we break 150 in the bankroll. Fingers crossed. Then we'll jump up to $2 or so on just to add a little more juice to the squeeze. Main reason why, because I haven't finished at 60% yet, or 60% for my bets, and if I'm hitting below that, there's a very high chance I'm going to be losing money. And we need to last all season long, all the way through the National Bowl season and the National Championship game. So that's why it's dollar bets. Anyways, back to UCF. They won that game handily on a Thursday night, winning 56-17. The juice was worth the squeeze. UCF does look like the offense is it's going to be one of the fun ones to watch. Kind of reminds you of like second, third year Chip Kelly out in Oregon. Early Marcus Mariota, late, who is it? Dennis Dixon was way back. He was like my age. But the blur, when you really got to see Oregon's offense starting to catch the nation by storm, and it wasn't just a team that could score. Like, you know what I'm saying. UCF looks fast. They're fun to watch. If you didn't watch them this past week, try to make it a point if they're on national TV again to definitely check that out. Next up, we had Utah State on the road at number 11 Michigan State. Michigan State was a 23.5-point favorite. We took the road team. We took Utah State plus 24, and it paid off big. It really looked like Michigan State was going to walk all over them in the first quarter, and then they kind of let their foot off the brake, kind of gave Utah State room, and their defense wasn't a typical Mark D'Antonio defense. This was, I'm going to be honest, it didn't look good. Utah State almost pulled the upset. They ended up winning, like I said, they ended up losing 38-31, so Utah State plus 24 paid off for us nice. We roll into Friday night, looking to make a little bit of action up and head into the weekend on a strong note. We took, well, I can't even read what I wrote there for a second. Let's take a sip and regroup. 1 second. Tonight we're drinking spicy water, that LaCroix coconut, Why? Because it's what came in the pack. No, there's not really any flavors I don't like. Anywho, we had Western Kentucky on the road at number 4, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was 37.5-point favorites. When I finally placed the bet, they ended up getting Wisconsin at 35-point favorites. Expected them to cover big time and just blow the doors off Western Kentucky. Nope, we were wrong. We got. Wisconsin decided to pull their starters at halftime, and the second and third team really didn't do anything, especially not on offense, to put any points on the board. Wisconsin ended up winning that game 34-3. We honestly needed 4 more points to at least get a push and get our money back. So that's a disappointing one, 2-1. Then also Friday night, we ended up with another L. We had San Diego State on the road at number 13, Stanford. Stanford was 14-point favorites. We took San Diego State because I wasn't too confident in how Stanford was going to perform first game of the year. So they ended up winning the game 31-10. So Bryce Love showed out pretty well. San Diego State definitely isn't what they used to be last year with was it Rashad Penny, who ended up being drafted by the Seahawks, I think, the little small guy. They definitely have that same just like go-to threat every time now, and it clearly showed. So we end up starting off Saturday. The noon game, we have Oregon State on the road at number 5, Ohio State. Ohio State was 38-point favorites. That's who we rode with. We expect them to cover with ease, and that's exactly what they did. This game went over 100 points combined. I think that initial over-under started at, I want to say 79 or something like that. And this team, combined, they did 108 together. 77-31 was the final score there. We knew that Ohio State was going to cruise in this game, even with Urban Meyer being suspended. But Oregon State, they showed up a little bit in the second half, kind of put some points on the board. Had me worried there for a minute, but Ohio State thankfully held on to the lead. Next up is one of my favorite personalities on Twitter, JP Gilbert. He was actually on the second or third episode of the podcast ever. His football takes during college football season are highly comical and oftentimes very wrong as well. The first one he was wrong on was, I think his tweet said, yeah, maybe I'm on the lane train or something, but I really think that FAU boys might go up there and surprise some people in Norman, Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma, even though they're 21-point favorites, are having none of that. They end up winning 63-14. I think all 14 of FAU's points came in the fourth quarter. Once Oklahoma kind of, you know what, let's get these other guys some burn, get them some playing time. We're up so big. Just right from the gate, Oklahoma was up 21-0, I think, in the first 10 minutes of the game. They just absolutely dominated. They haven't lost any steam offensively at all. Kyler Murray might potentially be a better option than Baker Mayfield at quarterback. He's a little bit shorter, but still he's just as accurate, just as quick. Florida Atlantic, hey, it's the check got cut. You got paid for going out there and getting that work, so good on you. Number 23, Texas, was on the road at Maryland as 14-point favorites. It was a repeat of the 2017 kickoff game, where that game turned into just zero defense and lots of points scored. I think the final score is 53-40 something last year, and the notes from last week's episode. But anyways, Texas was like, you know what? This is the Tom Herman era. They're going to start strong. This will be the year they actually do something. Wrong. And I'm glad I didn't go with my gut. We took Maryland because I think I talked myself into it on last week's episode. Took Maryland plus the 14 points. They came out victorious as well, coming up really big. Basically until the fourth quarter, Texas started them out a little comeback together, but just couldn't piece it off. Maryland's up winning 34-29. And I'm gonna be honest with you, at that point, we're looking good, we're feeling good. We're 5-2 on the weekend, heading into the afternoon slate. I pour my second or third old fashioned. And you know what? We're gonna sit down, really gonna enjoy this Washington-Auburn game, and let this buzz kind of take its course. In that game, you had number 6 Washington taking on number 9 Auburn in Atlanta. Auburn was 2-point favorites. We took Washington in the 2 points, hoping that they could make it competitive since their last game against an SEC opponent. Of course, the first one being Alabama. Not so great, Washington. They did put some points together. They finally kind of figured out and caught up to the speed of what Auburn was portraying in the first quarter. During the second and going into the second quarter and the second half, they ended up losing, of course, to 21-16. Auburn took the 5-point victory there, but it was a damn good game. I can't even be upset about that one. It was one of those that could have gone either way. Auburn ended up covering. Auburn still, in my opinion, is my dark horse to win the SEC overall. If they could, I would say they could get it together with their receivers, but Jared Stidham maybe was just a little bit off that game. Or maybe Washington's that good on defense, I'm not sure. But anyways, heading to the next game, Tennessee on the road at number 17, West Virginia. West Virginia was 10-point home favorites. They ended up winning 40-14. Will Greer was on fire, absolutely slinging the absolute shit out of the rock. When he was finally pulled, I think in the midway through the third quarter, West Virginia's come for league, and Tennessee, man, I wouldn't be shocked if Phil Fulmer takes over mid-season just to start calling some plays, do something right, because Jeremy Pruitt, he ain't the guy. He's Al Golden Light. I'm telling you right now. But we took that win as well. Then finally we ended on a 4-game losing streak, much like Miami at the end of their last 2 seasons. Started out with number 14 Michigan on the road at number 12 Notre Dame. We took Michigan as 1-point underdogs. They end up losing to Notre Dame 24-17. Very not cool. I hate seeing touchdown Jesus win anything. I really thought Michigan could put it together with their defensive line, Shea Patterson at quarterback, but maybe he's not the answer either. Maybe just the play calling wasn't there. It looked a lot like Miami's game, a lot of lack of execution, zero concentration seemed to be going on. So Notre Dame stuck one out. I will say they did look like a much more improved team, Brandon Woodenbush at QB, than they did last year. It remains to be seen if they're for real or not. Then you had Louisville Saturday night taking on Alabama in Orlando. Alabama, of course, was 25-point favorites. We took Louisville on the points. Alabama ended up winning that game handedly, 51-14. I know everyone's saying how Alabama is like, this is going to be this juggernaut now because they have a legit quarterback who could run, who can actually throw the bar accurately more than 20 yards down the field. I didn't watch much of this game. I kind of flicked around. It was about that time. I was pretty drunk, so we went and got drinks and finished up the Michigan game at the bar. But yeah, Alabama did look, they never looked like they missed a beat. I think Nick Saban's now 10-1 in home openers. I thought Louisville put a little bit better performance together with Juwan Pass as QB. Not quite Lamar Jackson type numbers, but something that would be respectable enough to move the ball on the Bobby Petrino offense, but they just didn't have it. Oh shit! And then Sunday night you had my beloved Hurricanes, number 8 in the country, as 3.5-point favorites. Taking on LSU in Dallas. LSU coming in number 25. One of my hard, fast rules, I stuck to it last season except for 1 or 2 times. I broke the rule this past week just because, I don't know, I jumped the gun on it. But typically, I do not bet on Miami games. Why? Because A, it hurts my wallet. B, it hurts my pride. Especially when I read so many good things that gas them up in the media, on Twitter and everything. And a performance like Sunday night, literally, I think there's one tweet that summed it up, and I retweeted it, at j-325. It was, we waited 8 months for this, and this is the performance that came out. The quarterback play was rough to watch. And then throw in the defense, doing wholesale changeouts in the offensive or the defensive line. You have second-string players in there when first-string players could probably use the playing time just to still catch up to the speed of the game. And then the special teams, horrible punting, missed field goals. Miami's starting field position was their own 34-yard line. LSU's was, I think, at their 40-something. So they're already almost in midfield every time they were getting the ball, it turned out on average. It was just a bad game. Miami looked like shit. Offensively, coaching looked like Al Golden still coached the team. 0 halftime adjustments at all. And then you had, I can go deep into this, but anyways, long story short, LSU came in, beat the absolute piss out of Miami. Thankfully, Miami, for me anyway, has 3 relatively easy games to kind of get their shit together before conference play starts up in October. And finally, on Monday night, I knew it going in the way my gut feeling was going. I was like, you know what? Maybe Willie Taggart's going to do something right. He's finally got the best core of athletes he's had at Florida State. He might be the guy who can pick up where Jimbo left off and really use these athletes effectively. And at the same time, I was like, Justin Fuentes did have his quarterback return last year. We saw what he did at Memphis. He knows how to put points up. He can run at a quick pace as well. Then, of course, Bud Foster's defense. And I kind of going into Monday afternoon, I was like, I should really take another bet on Virginia Tech +7 just to kind of not necessarily fade my own, but repick against myself. Throw a little bit more money on the line because I thought Virginia Tech would win it. And Virginia Tech came in, and they may have... The final score looked worse than Miami versus LSU. Virginia Tech won 24-3 after being 7-point underdogs. Just gave it to Florida State. You know, Willie Taggart talking about, Virginia Tech faked injuries to slow down our pace. Bullshit. Y'all couldn't get anything going. DeAndre Francois, he can move the ball in between the 20s, but anything getting that end zone, nothing. The defense just wasn't there. Virginia Tech looked real on point. Florida State looked as sloppy as Miami. I can't wait to see that 14-10 final score in late October when they play. Anywho, made a couple other bets. We bet, 9, 10 other games and ended up winning those. A couple of those are in-game bets. You can see those all on theregularloser.com. Scroll down to see other bets. That's our place from there. And that's kind of where we made most of our green this weekend and covered those 7 losses from earlier up. All right. We're going to take a 5-10 second, just kind of reset. So if you need to pick your nose, to return a text, I recommend you do that now. If you're watching at home, scratch your balls, look at your phone, see if you got any tweets, see if you got anything there. I know I'm going to have to check mine. Yep, a couple things here on Instagram that I'm not going to look at. But, all right. Take a sip. And let's continue. Okay, heading to week 2 of the college football season. Wow, what are we at right now? I can't even see the time. We're at 20 minutes, 14 minutes. I don't know. I'm using a different camera this week, so we're going to see how this turns out. Hopefully the audio looks as good as the picture does to me. But this week we're going to start out. We have Duke on the road at Northwestern. We're going to have Northwestern come in as 2.5-point home favorites. The reason I picked this game, we're only doing 10 this week, but we'll do 10 in each and every week. The only reason we picked this game, this is kind of one of those battle of the brain type schools. They're a very prestigious academic school in Duke. Same with Northwestern. Both these schools really aren't known for their football teams. Northwestern definitely more football than basketball, but Duke, everyone knows Duke basketball. This I just thought was an interesting little matchup here between 2 undefeated teams. It's out of conference, ACC versus Big Ten. And I'm not going to be honest, I'm not surprised Northwestern is coming out of this game. I think this is mainly due to home field advantage. Last week, Northwestern beat Purdue on the road 31-27, while Duke beat Army at home 34-14. Neither one of those are really impressive wins. I think the Purdue win is a little bit better of a resume builder, especially because A, it was a conference game for Northwestern, but B, their team that usually starts out really strong up there in Chicago with Pat Fitzgerald. This one here, as much as I'd like to see Duke win one for the SEC, or for the ACC, I'm sorry, and kind of look a little better, I don't know. Northwestern is one of those teams that just seems every year they catch somebody slipping a little bit. It could be a school like Penn State. They might catch Wisconsin. They might catch Ohio State. Somebody. They always take down someone in conference early on in the year when they look their best. They get that win. They get a big head, and they fall off and finish the season at like 6-6 or 7-5 with a bowl win. Duke, on the other hand, has kind of been up, and then kind of a little bit of taper the last year and a half with David Cutcliffe. They're a very well-coached team. They don't make a lot of mental errors. They don't make a lot of mistakes with the ball. They usually are pretty good. It's just usually a lack of defense that's usually hurting Duke, and on medium to average, I would say medium to average, just your average run-of-the-mill team, they're probably gonna move the ball on them offensively a little bit. This one here will be interesting. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. He is known to run with it. When I first looked at this game, my gut instinct was take the home team, take Northwestern the 2 points, and I think that might be the way to go because they're such heavy favorites. They're minus 145. Of course, we went about how bets worked last week, so just to recap, if a team is minus 145, you'd have to bet $145 to win 100, versus Duke, they're plus 125, so $100 would win you 125 back. So you'd recoup your money plus the next additional $25. I think I may have to go with Duke here on the road, just because it's actually at 2.5. I'm probably going to take Duke plus 3, possibly for the outright win. It'd give me a little something to cheer for, a little homers and pride. We're going to go with, I might end up fading this pick and trying to cover myself on it. But right now, for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to put this out. We're going to take Duke plus 3 for first game of this weekend. Next up, you have Georgia Tech on the road at USF. Georgia Tech's coming to this game as 3.5-point favorites. USF, both teams coming off a win. Georgia Tech versus Alcorn State. USF versus Elon. Georgia Tech shut out their opponent while USF kind of let Elon stick around even though they won 34-14. The biggest thing I noticed the difference of, first off, was the change of quarterback from last year to this year. Last year with Quentin Jones, I said last week, with Quentin Flowers at quarterback and Charlie Strong's first year at USF, they looked borderline one of those Group 5 teams that could beat a Power 5 team any day of the week. Not your elites, your top 10 teams, but definitely a 10 through 25 or 11 through 25. They could hang with this team just purely based on Quentin Flowers. Now with Blake Barnett at quarterback, who's more of a pocket passer who can kind of move a little bit, you look at their stat line. He was 24 for 34, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns versus their rushing. 8 carry. The leading rusher was who? Johnny Ford. 8 carries for 43 yards. So to me, that just shows me right off the gate, either A, Georgia Tech has a really bad secondary and a good rush defense, or USF is switching to more a traditional offense, or like a pro-style offense versus the spread they've been used to. Really starting to throw the ball more versus run first. But you kind of play your personnel. That's what Charlie Strong's doing. He's working with what he has available. Georgia Tech, they're going to run the triple option. Paul Johnson in every year. He refuses to get away from it. I don't know if it's for what reason. It gives a lot of teams fits, especially if you have to start the year prepping for that, or if you have to play. Let's say you play on Saturday and you have to play Georgia Tech on Thursday night, much like Miami has to do sometimes. You only have those 5 days to really prepare for the triple option, which is something you might see once a year unless you play Army, Navy. That's really it. BYU runs a spread. But those are the only teams that really run the triple option anymore. So it's just one of those weird, funky ones. USF, definitely with who they open with, probably worked on preparing for this a little bit. I'm not with Charlie Strong and being a previous defensive coordinator. He knows how to defend it. I don't know if USF has the athletes to do that. This one here, Georgia Tech being a 3.5-point favorite, I can tell you right now this might be a little bit more of a ACC homerism. But I really think Georgia Tech is going to be the team to beat in this one. Coming out victorious, I'm going to take them as 3-point favorites, just to kind of come in on the road, heading to Tampa. They're not going to be too scared from going from Atlanta to Tampa, dealing with the noon kickoff and the heat. So they won't be tired for it. It could be a really good game, really close one. Probably have you biting my nails come 3:30 in the afternoon, but definitely going to take Georgia Tech on this one to cover the 3 points you're taking them at. Next game is UCLA on the road at number 6 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's coming into this game as 30.5-point favorites. Now, you might ask, why the hell would you pick a game like this? That spread's not even close. That's an easy pick, right? Is it? Can Oklahoma cover 31 points against UCLA? A Chip Kelly-led UCLA I think so. I'm telling you right at the get-go here. The way Oklahoma looked last week versus the way UCLA looked, UCLA lost last week to Cincinnati, who is in UCF's conference, the American. Their Group 5 team, they lost 26-17. Chip Kelly definitely doesn't have the personnel for this yet. Being a home game for Oklahoma, we saw last week they went against a team with a supposedly fast, upbeat offense like FAU. Oklahoma had the athlete advantage, they had the talent advantage, plus the coaching advantage. They won that game with ease. This one here is going to be the same. It'll be interesting. The over-under set at 64. I don't know if they're really predicting Oklahoma's defense to be that good, but I think Oklahoma could probably put up at least 48 points in this one. So from that, you only need 18 points out of UCLA to hit your over. I would probably hit Oklahoma. I'm going to hit Oklahoma and the over on this one, but just to make it a little bit easier on us, we'll take Oklahoma plus 30, and or take Oklahoma minus 30. I'm sorry, and run with it. This seems like an easy bet. About teams that are still trying to feel each other out, and this could be a lot of Vegas inflating the numbers, but I still think definitely Oklahoma's 30-point better than UCLA. I think they talked about the out of conference thing. You had Pac-12 versus Big 12. Some they really don't cross over much. Anyways, that's I was supposed to mention it if I didn't. Next up, you have Colorado on the road at Nebraska. Nebraska's going to be 3.5-point home favorites in this one. Nebraska coming off a fantastic cancellation last week. Everyone was looking forward to Scott Frost's debut. His offense that is still basically running at UCF. Implementing it with a little bit of an athlete upgrade at Nebraska, and of course his alma mater, Power 5 school. Really kind of see it as a chance to get going. Colorado, on the other hand, they beat Colorado State. Colorado, on the other hand, beat Colorado State 45-13 last week. Their offense is really clicking. Was it last year, year before last? They had they were 10-0 against the spread. It might have been last year, where you just bet them every week. They covered in and out constantly. You could bet on them. They were one of the best teams against the spread. What's the coach's name? Mike. Not important, but they did so well, and it surprised him. I think he's another one of those coaches that went out when his senior class graduated. He went and bought all of them suits for job interviews after college or for the draft combine, any type of interviews with teams. He had him covered, and I think he's an awesome guy. Love Scott Frost too. Hate that he left UCF, but I think that was kind of his plan all along. Nebraska getting 4 points at home. Their opening weekend, they kind of prepared for whoever the fuck they played last week. I bet on it and got canceled, but that rain delay kind of screwed them over, so they had to pivot. They had to pivot and take on Colorado. Week 2, just kind of switch up their whole game plan. Not sure what Nebraska's defense is going to look like. I know with UCF's defense, they gradually got better and better each year. They could be kind of on a miss here, just to kind of, I don't know. I don't think they're going to have the defensive personnel in place. Nebraska in years past, like decades ago, like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, were known for having a rugged smash mouth defense. It's not so anymore. They switched from that power eye, Tom Osborne-led offense to gradually going out to the spread under, I forget his name. The dude who kind of looks like a goblin. Used to be their coach. Shit. I drew a blank. I have no idea. That is upsetting. Bo Pelini. That's who it is. Going to the spread offense under him. They haven't really gone back since. A lot of their players are geared for that spread. It's just, are they going to be able to execute the way Scott Frost wants? Apparently he's starting a true freshman quarterback, the first one who's ever started for the University of Nebraska. So it'll be a lot of pressure on that young man's shoulders, especially the home opener now. It's been pushed back a little bit. Everyone's going to be at this game. I think Nebraska wins based on talent, but I wouldn't be shocked if Colorado pulls an upset on this one. Mike McIntyre, is that coach's name for Colorado? Jeez, this is going to bother me as well. But yeah, I definitely think Colorado has a chance to pull the outright upset here. The money line on this is basically picking the winner. A lot of the public is on Nebraska, so They're minus 170 with Colorado at plus 145. Ah, man. Just looking at numbers, that really makes me want to take Colorado plus 4 for the out. You know what, we're going to do it. We're going to take Colorado in this one, plus the 4 points, to give Scott Frost a rude awakening for his new home opener. You know, whatever. We talked about it. Does my hair look better this week? I got it cut shorter. So I don't have all that like hangover here and stuff. Shouts to Kurt over at Famous Fades for hooking it up. It's not my best haircut I've ever had, but it's much needed. It's easier to get ready in the morning, and that's what matters more than anything to me. And gotta look good. All right, next up we have number 3 Georgia on the road at number 24 South Carolina. Georgia's coming to this game as 10-point favorites. Over under set at 57. This one has me interested because a home game for South Carolina. They have back their star athlete, Deebo Samuels. He's going to make some noise. I guarantee that they're going to be doing a lot of game planning to get the ball to him. However, Kirby Smart, being the defensive-minded coach he is at Georgia, he already knows he'll probably have a spy on Deebo Samuel the entire game. So wherever he goes, that spy is going to go just so he can stay with him no matter what. So you're always going to have him covered. So they're going to make South Carolina get creative and have their quarterback beat him with their arm. Their quarterback, Jake Bentley, did great last week against a scab school. And who is this? Coastal Carolina. They beat 49-15. He threw 4 touchdowns, only 7 incomplete passes. So what's not to like about that? Georgia's side, they opened with Austin P, whatever you want to say, Peay. They won 45-0. The starters kind of got to take a break at halftime. I don't even know if they played that long. Jake Fromm only threw 16 passes. He was on point, pick up right where he left off. The running back situation looked great for Georgia. At least I didn't watch it, but from what I read, they looked pretty good. So this will be a 10 points. This is another one of those ones I think both these teams are kind of preparing for each other a couple weeks in advance just to kind of, they know they're opening with a soft team. They can kind of build in some of that higher quality opponent or maybe a conference rival into that off-season prep. So South Carolina is going to be really prepared, not going to be prepared or unprepared in this game at all. But Georgia could be sleeping on them a little bit coming off a national title appearance last year. That being said, I think Georgia is the better team. They might definitely open up the playbook a little bit more, let the starters kind of get going. I mean, that team didn't lose many players to the draft. I'm going to go with Georgia to cover on this one. They're looking at that money line too. See, this is a weird one here. The money line is minus 410 for Georgia and plus 310 for South Carolina. So if you take that down all the way, that's 210 plus 205. It's hard not to take that South Carolina line now that I'm looking at it. Crazy thing is to happen. I think a lot of the public money is going to be on Georgia as well. For good reason. We're taking the Gamecocks. Fuck it. Give me the Gamecocks plus 10. They're still getting some kinks worked out, but I would love it to have Will Muschamp pull an upset here, get their hopes up, and then see them finish at 8-4 this year. That would just be fantastic. It'd tickle me goddamn pink. I know I'm on spicy water number 3 for this evening. It's going to get to me a lot. Winding down this back half over here, we have number 2 Clemson on the road at Texas A&M. Clemson's going to come into this game as 12-point favorites, which is surprising. I think this is another one of those lines that you absolutely have to hit. Clemson minus 12 on this one. They are minus 500 for the money line, plus 375 for Texas A&M. And you'd be like, Jordan, why would you say that they're going to be so much better than them? First of all, Clemson played Furman last week, won 48-17. Let their new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, get in the game in the second quarter and kind of just get him some playing time. Clemson was already up pretty big right out the gate. And they only scored 7 touchdowns, kicked a field goal. 6 touchdowns and kicked 2 field goals. Just did my math wrong there. So They knew they were up and they kind of coast. XA&M opened up with Northwestern State. Who the hell is that? They won 59-7 in Jimbo Fisher's debut. Yes, their points, 59 points is a lot, but against what type of talent? And the biggest thing that kind of makes me think on this one is, I actually wrote this down because I was thinking about it. What makes you think Jimbo Fisher, who, as soon as Clemson got hot 4 years ago, is going to be able to beat Clemson with worse talent than he had at Florida State? Dabo Swinney's won the last 3 straight against Jimbo Fisher, and 2 of those are by double digits in regular season games. Clemson has been stacking talent slowly by slowly. Now they're one of the cream of the crop. They're the reason they're expected to win the ACC, and they're expected to be in the college football playoff every year, just like Clemson is, just like Ohio State. The talent is there. Texas A&M didn't. They recruited great offensively and a couple of defensive players here and there against when Kevin Summerlin was there. But now Jimbo has to come in and get his own guys in and still probably pulled in a decent class. But is Jimbo really the guy, or is he just big fish in small pond? I mean, maybe he can make some noise in the SEC in a couple of years, just kind of what he owned the ACC there for, 4 years, 5 years, however long he was a head coach after Bobby Bowden retired. But he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it at Texas A&M, especially in year 1 against Clemson. We're taking Clemson in the 12 points. Expect this one to get ugly. I could see this game winning. Clemson winning by 20 plus in this one, no problem. Ooh, this is one we actually get to resort to the phone for. I've got some takes here that I screenshotted a little bit earlier. Just asking some of my friends. Mainly because I didn't watch the game and don't care. This one here, you have Kentucky heading down to the swamp to take on the mighty Florida Gators, coming in at number 25. Florida's going to be 14-point favorites in this one. Florida won last week against Charleston Southern, 53-6, and Kentucky actually beat a D1 school, Central Michigan, 35-20. So Kentucky's playing better opposition and looking pretty well. Florida beat an FCS school, and now their fans are trying to buy college football playoff tickets. The fuck? Anywho, Kentucky didn't look great offensively, especially throwing the ball. Their quarterback threw 2 interceptions that game and no touchdowns, and he's just doing a lot of dink and dunking, only threw for 78 yards on 18 attempts. Everyone thinks Felipe Franks the second coming of Tim Tebow, Cam Newton. Probably Chris. He's probably more Chris Leak than anything, which isn't a bad thing, especially in the college game. But he threw for 5 touchdowns, 200 yards. Their running game overall didn't look fantastic. They did cycle in a lot of guys. But this game here will be based primarily on Kentucky's defense, Florida's offense. We know Florida's going to have good defense. We know Kentucky's offense is going to be pretty trash, if we're being honest. But this is one of those rivalry games that Florida has owned for the last 20 years. I think Kentucky's won once, twice, maybe in 20 years. So those odds aren't great. If they've won it all, and if you're a Florida fan listening to this, you can 100% tweet at me at j-325 or leave a comment, review the show, and tell me how much of a fucking idiot I am because I don't pay attention to Florida-Kentucky rivalries. But anyways, I need to hear that shit so I know that you're listening, and that helps me. You get to vent, I get a review. Symbiotic relationship, dickbag. Anyways, I didn't watch the game. I made a couple of comments on Twitter, and I had some people reach out to me and say, hey, anytime you want to talk Florida football, get at me. So I got at them. First up, I reached out to some of my Florida friends, 2 of them who are currently living in Alabama. One of them, previous podcast guests, especially for the college football throw, I think last year and the year before last, or maybe just the year before last. Willie B, you might know him as Will You Be My Neighbor on Twitter. I asked him, he said the same thing that most of the Florida fans are kind of somewhat I knew, that the last few meetings have been decided by a touchdown or less, and it's hard to really get a true feel for these teams in week 1. Kentucky's got a running game. Florida gave up a lot of rushing yards in the second half with their second and third string in, but again, that's second and third string, and it's not a rivalry game and a conference game. Florida probably play affairs the whole time. Will could see them definitely winning. Florida covering, but maybe not the 14. You can see 10, but not quite 14. One of my other Florida pals, Dirty Joe, also reached out and said basically the exact same thing that Will said. He has the Gators winning by 15 to 18 points. He thinks the Gators win this one handedly. Next up, we have another previous podcast guest, and Patrick McClymont. You may remember him from the first and second season of the College Football Show, and actually of the podcast. I think he's episode 9 or 10 of the podcast. You can listen to him. I asked him, his big thing was Dan Mullen's lost to Kentucky once in the last 9 years when he was at Mississippi State. Florida's got the offensive weapons, Florida has even more offensive weapons now, and Kentucky wasn't able to close in the past. He's hoping it makes it competitive, but he thinks Florida covers that also spread easily. He's in the same boat as Dirty Joe. I asked him if Kentucky would break 20 points, and he said no. Florida wins 42-10. So if that's a bad take and somehow Kentucky gets beat, please direct all your hate at Pat and let him know I sent you. Let's see. He thinks that Florida's going to open the full offense this week. I couldn't agree more. They're going to really kind of show what Dan Mullen can do since his time at Mississippi State, being a head coach there, but previously being the offensive coordinator at UF during the Tim Tebow era. So we could see some really razzle-dazzle shit on this day. And finally, we had my last Florida friend who I can actually tolerate, be a guy from my gym named Jake. You may have seen him. He probably didn't have a shirt on and probably had a man bun going. Why are you coming on right now? Virus protection. We don't need that in our life. He feels that Florida and Kentucky both played pretty sloppily, especially in the last couple games. There's always some type of errors that go on. First real test for both these teams, but he sees it very unlikely that Kentucky breaks that winning streak. These guys don't know each other at all. He actually echoed exactly what Willie B said. He doesn't see Florida winning by more than 10, definitely not 14. So that already inclines me. You've got two on the fence of Florida probably won't cover 10 points, much less 14. Then you have the other two, Florida wins by 20 plus. Which way do you kind of lean? Let's see, what else I asked Jake? Can Kentucky break 20 points? He said he didn't think so. Bigger theme is, what's the team going to do against, let's see, I can read it exactly because I'm going to do him an injustice. Can Kentucky break 20 points on UF's defense? Tough question. I don't think so. My bigger concern is that Florida struggled for a while to get into the end zone. Last week was against a pushover team. We'll see what they can do this week. I mean, yeah, it's actually Florida getting points on Kentucky, Florida scoring, but of course they did it with ease last week. I'll be honest, because I hate the goddamn Gators so much, and it would just make me smile and tickle me pink if somehow Kentucky were able to do this, I want to pick Florida, but Florida's going to win the game. I'm going to go with history on the side of this one. I think that Florida wins the game, but it's a very close, it's a very sloppy game. Thank you to all my UF friends who reached out. Please rate the show if you haven't already. I'll be giving you a shout out and tagging you to let you know that you're mentioned in the podcast somewhere around the 40-minute mark. So, all right, so we're taking Kentucky plus the 14 points. Moving on. 3 more people. Hang in there with me. I know it's getting long. You're getting tired. You're probably to work. You're shitting. You got to do your own thing. Okay. Number 13, Penn State on the road at Pittsburgh, reviving the Keystone Classic. The only other game that's been Penn State's played Pittsburgh's, two of their longest standing rivalries were the Backyard Brawl against West Virginia, and now, of course, the Keystone Classic, which has been renamed recently for the Keystone State, not for the 30-rack shooting guy at different gas stations. Anyways, Penn State's going to come to this game as 8.5-point favorites after barely escaping a win against Appalachian State last week, winning 45-38. Yes, I cashed in on that one because I got App State plus 14.5 midway through the third quarter. It paid off great dividends for me. What's going on the camera here? There we go. Much better. It's getting on, make my face all blurry, and it helps me kind of cover up some of my acne that I got going on. I want it to still be crisp and stuff for the viewers, you know. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, beat Albany 33-7, so you know they really showed out and opened up the playbook. Penn State had to get desperate. They had to do a couple things to really make them pull up the W, if I'm being honest. I thought Trace McSorley was gone from Penn State and moved on along with Saquon Barkley, but he's still there. He definitely put the team on his back, but you have a nice replacement for Saquon with Miles Sanders, who put on a pretty good performance last week, almost rushing for 100 yards. My thing with Penn State having to go a little bit deeper into the playbook than they would have expected. P.S. Hey teams, stop scheduling Appalachian State week 1 because you'll fuck around and get got. It's kind of like North Dakota State, who's now D1. Don't do that. You'll fuck around and get beat by D2 school, and then you'll be clowned on and make that list every year when they produce one out of biggest upsets. So don't do that. What I was saying, they went deep into the playbook a little bit more. So that probably gave Pat Narduzzi, who is a very defensive-minded coach, used to be the defensive coordinator at Michigan State. Now he's the head coach at Pittsburgh. He's going to be able to be like, ooh, this is what they do. He's going to really focus. I think he'll be involved a lot in that defensive planning room. What concerns me is Pittsburgh offense. They really don't look spectacular, especially against weaker opponents. I was surprised at that. Pittsburgh will definitely be a much more run-heavy team. Penn State's a little more balanced. And if Penn State can keep up their rush defense, I don't think they'll have a problem beating Pittsburgh on this one. They do have to go on the road a little to travel. Penn State fan to travel well. And I'm going to go. I don't think Pittsburgh has that much of a home advantage. I'm going to take Penn State to cover by 8 points, not the 8.5. Kind of help myself out there, cutting down on my win, but regardless. Finally, 2 more. I think this is where game day is going to be. You have number 17 USC on the road at number 10 Stanford. This will be a battle in the Pac-12 out west. Stanford's coming to this game as 5-point home favorites. USC's coming off a win of UNLV 43-21, while Stanford handled San Diego State pretty well. We talked about them last week in our bets. Big thing on this one, USC's offense clicked along pretty goddamn well against a little bit weaker opponents. Stanford's, on the other hand, didn't miss a beat. They take care of business. They're not going to gloat and throw up a bunch of points, especially with a potential Heisman Trophy, big-time Heisman Trophy candidate this year in Bryce Love at running back. Even though he looks like he struggled a little bit, he carried the ball 18 times for 29 yards. So either Stanford's offensive line wasn't gelling, or San Diego State has a pretty damn good rush defense. Either way, they aired it out, threw the ball for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Their receiver over here, what's his name? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. 6 catches, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's me knocking. Hey, Biletnikoff, keep an eye on this guy. He might be their go-to threat, especially on a team where you have another Heisman Trophy finalist. You're going to have eyes on you. Keep throwing that guy the ball. USC is going to know that. Their freshman quarterback, that J.T. Daniels. Is it J.T. Daniels? It's J.T. Daniels. Your boy was right. It'll be interesting to see, because Stanford's going to throw a lot of interesting blitzes at them, a lot of disguised blitzes with David Shaw's defense. Stanford being 5-point favorites, I'm not sure what the history is on this one. I guess I could look it up real quick. Stanford. Because I kind of want to see what the history is on this one. I know this is one of those teams that have been up and down each and every year. This one wins one, this one wins one. Let's see. And they always kind of, whoever uses a higher ranked team, that's who ends up taking the L. Recent history. Let's see, going back to 2013, Stanford's gotten 3 of them. USC's taken 4. Stanford really was, since Harbaugh was there in 2009 and stuff, that's where it's really been. Actually, it's only 6-4 since 2009, and it usually seems Stanford's kind of had the better of this. Recently, it has been USC, but these games have all been close. 31-28. That one's not going to close. So these games are either close when USC wins. They're close. When Stanford wins, it's a goddamn blowout by double-digit points. Stanford being a home favorite in this one. They played neutral site last year. Damn, I think I dug too deep, and now I'm confused on who I'm going to pick. I think Stanford wins this game. I don't know if they win by 3. I might have to go with USC just because they might be able to. You know what? Fuck it. We're going with Stanford in 5 points. It just seems easier that way. I'll hedge my bet. That's what it's fucking called. Not fade myself. Hedging my bet. Jesus, I can't believe it took me so long to think of that. Hedging my bet and go against myself just to make the money. All right, and finally, last game of the night, guys. I know we're coming up on 50 minutes. You have number 15 Michigan State versus Arizona State. Michigan State's coming in as 6-point favorites on the road. I picked this one because this is another one you don't see a lot. Big Ten versus Pac-12. It's the last game of the night. 10:45 kickoff, so I'll probably be asleep by the time this one kicks off. As we mentioned, Michigan State barely won last week against Utah State, while Arizona State blew out UT San Antonio 49-7. They're going to have a much better offense under Herm Edwards than Michigan State saw last week. But who knows? They could have been sleeping a little bit on that team, and that's the reason why. Herm Edwards could get hot in Tucson. Are they in Tucson? They're in Tempe. Damn. So there's another T name out in Arizona. It gets confused. We talk about them all the time, right? Okay. Michigan State didn't look that great last week. Running the ball, throwing the ball, they looked pretty good. Ben Lerwecki, he's the guy who I mentioned. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's off, good fucking luck. Kind of Malik Rozier-esque, can be very streaky, but he can make the throws when he needs to. Jeez, what I'd give for that. Anyways, this one here, 6 points. That's a tough one. It could go either way, if I'm being honest. It's like a touchdown type game. My gut says Michigan State wins this game and wins it handedly, but given what they showed off last week and now being the road team, that could hurt them. I'm going to go, especially going from, the time zone not that much of a change. It's only an hour, 2-hour time change. Kicking off a little bit later. The coaches will have them repped and ready to go. We're going to take Michigan State to win this one. Take the favorite here. It looks like I'm going through my stuff, my quick picks here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Taking 6 favorites this week and 4 dogs. Let's see if that pays out for me. Again, please tune in to the show on iTunes. You can now watch it on YouTube. I'm recording it right now. I'll put the link to that in the episode as well. 52 minutes. This will be interesting. Not many people watched the last one. Oh well, it's out there for the few people who did. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any critiques or criticisms of the show, please head over to my Twitter, at me directly, at j-325. If you're more of an Instagram person, at jord.ash325. And finally, you can email me at the show, theregularusual@gmail.com. I always forget the phone number, so I'm going to give it to you right now. I want to say it's 813-850. That's not it. It is 813-856-9093. Call in. Give me your takes about games that are coming up in the future and games you want to hear and break down. What are my thoughts on this? What are my thoughts on that? No, if I don't know you, I probably won't be having you on the show. Or if I think you're a little bit of a sketchy person, you're not going to be coming on the show either. It's just what it is. But if I've felt you up before, you seem like an alright person, then we can definitely look something up. But anyways, until next week, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the College Football Show. Let's make some cheddar. Be sure to click on the link to Bovada to get a little coin in your pocket as well and make Saturdays that more entertaining. Thank you again, and have a great week.